Lydia. Hi.
Hey, Lara, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's so good to
I'm
see you.
good. It's good to see you. I like your wallpaper.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Christine. This is so fun seeing who's here.
So great to see so many faces. So welcome everybody. More people are joining us, but I think we probably want to get started because this is going to be a tightly packed hour. I'm really thrilled to be able to bring this to our community today. This is in some ways a little bit unusual for us because we are bringing together about 75 women for this event today, some of whom are members of our community and some of whom are new to Tide Risers. So welcome all of you and thank you for joining us today. I also just wanted to say we have several Tide Risers coaches on this session. And if you all are able to just change your name to Tide Risers Coach so that people know who you are and that you're with us. These are people who you'll be getting to know in our spring cohort that's going to be kicking off in March. So just welcome to everybody. I'm Lara Holliday. I'm the founder and CEO of Tide Risers. I really started Tide Risers, well, about 5 years ago, out of just a sense of sort of really wanting to have a community where I could find some things that I felt like I was lacking. I felt like I was lacking really good networking opportunities, really good mentoring and coaching in my personal and professional life. And I just wanted the space and the time to have the really deep and important conversations with the women in my life who are just so brilliant. But you know, when we got together, we would end up talking about work and we talk about our children, and there's so much more to it than that. So I built this space for us to really be able to get deeper, and that's what we're going to do together in the next hour. I'm so excited to introduce you all to Marion. Marion is one of our Tide Risers coaches. She founded Tide Risers in Philadelphia 2 years ago. And she is brilliant in so many ways. She's going to be telling you a little bit more about what she'll be doing in our spring cohort and our program. But I just want to pass it over to you, Marion, now just to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and kick things off.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. It is wonderful to be here. I'm seeing some familiar faces pop up, and then I'm seeing some new faces that I can't wait to get to know. So I love seeing people waving to each other. Let's do that. It's so fun. Really great to be in community with you all today. So thank you so much for joining. And I know we'll have more people popping on because we're just at the top of the hour here. So as Laura said, I'm a Tide Risers coach and I founded the Philadelphia cohort. Not sure if she's on yet, but one of our charter Philadelphia members, Adele Howland, will be joining us and will be speaking a little bit toward the end of the call about her experience. And then we also had our 2020 cohort last year went virtual. Super excited to be part of the there's Adele, I see her now. Hi, Adele. And super excited to be part of the 2021 cohort and excited for you all to learn about it today. As part of my Tide Risers work, I'm also a coach through my company called Illuminate Coaching. And I'm passionate about the concept of Illuminate because I believe that we have to shine a light into our shadows in order to be our best self and confront things that may be hard to see or uncomfortable to see in order to really live out our full whole life. And so it is no coincidence that I will be leading the inner critic session in our spring Tide Risers program, because that's a thing we do where we look at something that's part of us that may be, we may need support in looking at so we can shift our relationship to it. So excited for you all to learn more about what that program looks like and hope to see you as part of it. All right, so that's a little bit about me. As we dig in, I want to invite you, we always do a little grounding and centering as we kick off our time together at Tide Risers. So I want to invite you to just gently close your eyes if that is comfortable for you. If not, that is okay. And just feel your feet. Oh, I love it. Wait, I should also say, please, I love that people are introducing themselves in the chat. That's awesome. We'll keep that going. But we're going to center ourselves real quick and pause the chat and just feel your feet on the ground and just kind of gently roll your shoulders back and just take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. This always centers me as well because I come into the call like talking at 95 miles an hour and it slows me down as well, which is needed. And as you continue to breathe, I invite you to just notice if there's any sensations you're feeling in your body. Maybe you're feeling an anticipation, an eagerness, a bit of nervousness. Whatever you may be feeling, just accept it. And if you feel it, if it feels comfortable to you, I invite you to put your hand on wherever you may be having a sensation and just give yourself some compassion. And continue to breathe. And on your final exhale before we come back to the group, I invite you to just let go of anything that may not be serving you at this moment. And then when you're ready, you can come back to the group. All right. Thank you. So I am going to tell you a little bit of a story about why this 3-word mantra is something that's important to me. And the title of this session is, and it doesn't have to be spotlighted, Katie. We can be on, I just saw I got spotlighted. We can still be on community view. I don't know how to take that off. Oh, let's see if I can get back to gallery view. Okay, maybe that was just on my end. All right. Okay. So, let me just, this session is called A Strategy for the New Year, Creating Your 3-Word Mantra. And this is great for the new year, of course, because that's when we get reflective and think about what we want to be true. But it's also a tool that you can use at any time of the year. Anytime we're just reflecting and wanting to be purposeful about where we are and how we're moving forward. This session really builds off, connects to very beautifully Laura's session from January 14th. So I know that some of you were on that. If you were not on that, that is okay. It also meets you wherever you are today. But just know if you were there, you can connect to what the work you already may have done on that session. And a logistical note, you will need a pen and paper, or you can use your computer, but we're going to be journaling. And then we will also be doing a breakout and some whole group discussion. And then toward the end of this hour, Katie will be sharing more about the Tide Risers experience. So that's a little housekeeping before we dig in. Okay, so now back to that story that I teased you all. So some of you on this call were actually with me during this time because you were on my team. But I want to tell you a brief story, which is where this concept originated. So it was about 8 years ago, I was faced with a really tough decision. And the decision was kind of a sliding doors moment kind of decision, like it was going to have a big impact which direction I went. And what I was grappling with was, do I accept a job and promotion that I had been tapped for, even though I knew it was going to be a really incredible challenge and a very, very hard challenge? And further, I also knew that the reason it was going to be a big challenge is there was a very big organizational change that was happening that frankly I did not agree with and thought would be very difficult for my team and for our broader organization. And so a big part of me just wanted to flee, like get the heck out of this situation. No. But then another part of me was like, wow, I'm being offered this opportunity to lead, and I deeply, deeply care about the people on this team and the people in this organization. And so maybe I'm being offered this because I have a unique role to play to actually help this not be so bad, this thing that could be very hard. So I really didn't know how to make this decision, and I was grappling with it, and I was procrastinating making a call. And one night when I had no time left, I said, I'm just going to go on a walk. And I remember it being a very crisp, unseasonably cool August night in Philadelphia. And I remember looking up at the stars, just thinking like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And out of nowhere, these 3 words came to me, and they were, well, it really wasn't out of nowhere because I was really trying to call them in, but they were trust, openness, and gratitude. And when I said those words out loud, all the stories I was telling myself, the fear, the worry, it just released. And I thought to myself, wow, I can do this. I have to take this job. I'm trusting myself that I'm the right person to do it. I'm trusting that I can do it. I'm going to be open to the challenge, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And as I reframed it using those words, I realized, wow, this is, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take these ideas with me. And as expected, it was a very tough, rocky road, a lot of challenges. But I discovered that I could use those 3 words to be a tool to help center me and guide me when times were rough. And they really, really did. So if I was spiraling or stressed or feeling stuck, I would get quiet and I would say these words out loud. I would repeat them as I breathed, and then I would be able to move forward. So I started to wonder, why does this work so well? Like, why was it so helpful? And I began to learn about the power of mantra. So Katie, we can show that slide now. Okay, great. Thanks, Katie. Okay, I have to exit out of my full screen here. So mantra is a Sanskrit word that really just means a tool of the mind. A mantra can be anything that you verbalize, a word, a phrase, a prayer, or a hymn. You can verbalize it out loud by yourself in your head. You can do it in community with others. And it's often used repeatedly. And the practice of it comes from Buddhism and Hinduism, but the practice is used today in many faiths, such as in Christianity, chants or hymns are repeated, and also in secular meditation. It doesn't have to be faith-based at all. When you focus on a mantra as a tool of the mind, you literally can't focus on anything else. So you have to release the story you're telling yourself that's causing you to stress and spiral because you're bringing a new thought into your mind, and you're bringing it into your mind's eye, if you will. And so there have actually been scientific studies about it that have found that people who repeat a word over and over experience a quieting of the mind, because it really shuts down all those stories you were telling yourself and gives space to create a new story. I'm going to read you a quote that I thought was really powerful. Mantra is a sound vibration through which we mindfully focus our thoughts, our feelings, and our highest intention. This is from the music artist Garish, the author of Music and Mantras. And a quote from Sally Kempton, a meditation teacher. She says, over time, the vibration sinks deeper and deeper into your consciousness, helping you to eventually feel its presence as a powerful, subtle force working within each of us that carries us into a deeper state of awareness. So it really, really is a powerful tool. And so I'm now going to walk you through a series of reflection questions to help you identify a 3-word mantra for yourself. And why 3? I do want to quickly name 3 is a very magical number. Numerology says that 3 is a number for growth. When we are, and Katie, we don't have to do that slide just yet. Thank you so much. 3 is magical and means growth, because if you think about a family, becoming a family, it takes 2 people and they can make a 3rd. So it's how we grow as a family and as a species. It also represents harmony and balance, because if you have to have 3 legs to create a stool that is stable. You have to have a 3rd line to make a shape. So it's like a whole complete number that allows us to be balanced and centered. Laura talked in her session about the difference between a goal and intention. And so I have a screenshot here from her session. And I think it's really clarifying to think of a goal as what we want to do. It's the outcome, but the intention is how we want to be. So your 3-word mantra can be a shorthand for those intentions. It's almost like a tool to like keep those intentions with you as you go throughout your day. I actually wrote my 3 words. I did not do this, but my boss knew how important they were to me and etched and sent me a bracelet with the 3 words written on them. So I literally kept them with me as I walked through my day. And as I was feeling stressed, I would touch them and I knew they were there, and I would breathe. Okay, so let's dig in. Get your paper and pen handy. We're going to go through a series of reflection questions, and then you're going to go into groups and share what came up for you. If you already have intentions created, you can pull them up. If you're starting from scratch, that is great too. So this is going to feel a little bit like rapid fire. You're not going to have as much time to go deep, but the good news is you don't have time to overthink it. So I want you to just say, just whatever comes out, let it come out. Whatever comes to mind, just jot it down. You may not have time to write full sentences, just write a thought, a word, something to kind of capture the essence of what you're feeling. So the first question, and I can only see some of you, and I'm not reading the chat, but I'm assuming everybody's good and doesn't need any clarifying questions. Okay. All right, first question. I want you to think of a time in your life when you've been in a great challenge, but you made it through, maybe even better than before. and think of the values or qualities within you that help you get through. The first thing that often comes to mind is like a spouse or a partner, a therapist, which are great. We have, colleagues and fellow tide risers, which is awesome. We need that community and we need that support, but think about what was true for you. What were those things for you? So I'll be quiet and let you think for a minute. Okay, the next question, we can go to the next question, Katie, that's fine. So you're going to jot down the answers here. Think about when you were at your best. Maybe you were feeling in flow. What words describe your state of being in this moment? And or what were the values that were really showing up for you? So what are some words that pop? Okay, I'm going to be quiet so you can think about it and jot it down. Okay, we're going to move to the next question, and this one may take a little more thought, so we'll give you maybe a little bit more time, and if you have extra time, you can go back to the other questions. But now we're getting to the intentions. Think about what you want to be true today, tomorrow, next week. If you have goals or New Year's resolutions, this is where they go. So we're getting to the goals, the outcomes. What are you trying to kind of be true in your life? And then after you think about that, and I'll be quiet in just a minute to let you actually write this down and think about it. Imagine hitting a roadblock on your way to hitting that goal. What values or ways of being do you want to bring into the forefront if you hit a roadblock? And as you put those two things together, think about what words come to mind when you think about how you want to be, given your values, given what you've learned in the past about how you get through tough moments, and given what you've learned about yourself of when you're really flowing and at your best. So there's lots of different question prompts to potentially pull up lots of different ideas for you. I'm going to be quiet and just write down what comes up for you. We're just going to take 30 more seconds. Okay. And now you get 1 more minute to reflect on the next slide. So now we're going to pull it all together. Look back at what you wrote for all of these prompts. Were there any patterns, any words that popped repeatedly?
Whoa. That's so weird.
Were there any emotions you felt? That can be a really powerful clue. As a side note, this morning I've been grappling with what my new 3-word mantra is, because they can change and evolve given where you are in your life. And I knew presence and gratitude were 2, but I've been playing with a couple other versions for my first word, and I was like, change, updating, I don't know. And then this morning I was on my walk and I just said out loud, compassion. And I've been doing a lot of listening to the science of self-compassion, and I literally, like, my entire energy shifted and my body just like relaxed, and I felt like calm and centered. And I was like, oh, that's a sign. That's my word, compassion. So those can be really helpful clues if you notice any kind of feeling. And if maybe you didn't get to 3, maybe you just have 1, but pick a word or 2 or 3 if you have it that just popped for you as in your reflections. And you're going to play with it. It may not be exactly right, but it gives you a starting place to play with and toss around and say, is this mine? And we're going to go into groups. I'm going to give you just like 30 more seconds to look at what you wrote, since I've been talking at you the whole time. And then we'll go into breakouts. So, and I'll explain the breakouts in just a second. So let's take 30 seconds to just review. Then I'll come back. Okay, you should see a breakout, or actually, Laura, you can hit the join, well, actually not join rooms yet, just give you the instructions. We're gonna go into groups of roughly trios. And so in your breakout, you will have 10 minutes total. You will introduce yourself and just go around, everybody do quick introductions, and then just take turns sharing what emerged for you, and or how might this help you? Some people don't get all the way there, nothing emerged for them, but you can see that it has some value. So pick a question that resonates for you. And so you have, after introductions, you'll have about 3 minutes each. So we'll come back at 3:35 Eastern time. Okay, any questions? All right, have fun in your breakouts. And I'll put these in the chat as well so you can see them. Oh, I guess you can't see them in the chat if they go in the break room, but hopefully they have them. Awesome. Welcome back. I think everybody's back. Katie, do you think, and Laura?
Yep, I think we're good.
Everybody. Okay, welcome back. We'd love to just hear for a couple minutes from some voices. What came up for you? You can share a very open-ended prompt, whatever. Maybe you want to share what came up for you about your words or your reflection, or just something that was meaningful from your conversation. Don't speak for other women though, just speak for yourself, but maybe something, an aha that you had. Would love to hear from someone. You can come off mute and just share.
We're not afraid to call on people either. Sorry, did somebody want to go?
Yes, we're not. Heather, I see you going. Heather, great. Hi, Heather.
Hi. Yeah, so I'll say that I had a great, however many minutes we were in there, 9 or 10, but what I got was some new visuals from my partners in my group to kind of help inform my own thoughts and my own words, but I got visuals from them, which was really helpful.
I love that. You just spoke to one of my favorite things about the Tide Risers community, is that we like have these ideas and sometimes we put them out and our fellow Tide Risers like kind of help us clarify them. That's such the power of the group. So thank you for bringing that, Heather. And I'm excited you got some new things to play with your mantra. Thanks, Heather. Anybody else, or who else? Because we will call on you.
Hi, Marion.
Karen, hey. So
How
great
are
to see you. Great.
Yes, we experienced that same thing that, we were throwing out what we were struggling with and then got refinement and suggestions from each other on, is this more like what you're talking about? And then I was like, yes, that's great. So that's
Nice.
all.
Thank you, Karen. Is anybody, I love that. Is anybody willing to share maybe a mantra that came up for them, or a word or two or three that popped for you, and why that was meaningful?
I was sort of chatting with you guys behind the scenes, so I wasn't really in a room. Can I jump in anyways? Because I just came up with the word creativity, which is actually not, I don't usually think of myself as a creative person because I'm not like a visual artist. So I think haven't given myself like that term in the past. But I feel like we made this major pivot of tide risers last summer, and it took a lot of creativity. And I think that like in changing times when we're dealing with like a lot of unexpected transition, just being able to like kind of harness creativity is going to be important for me going forward. So I took that one away.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, and I think that it's really powerful, like when a word does come to you, and if you're like, wait, that word, and then to like actually see like why it, what is the meaning behind that? Because I think it's pretty intentional what comes up. I see some nods. Can somebody else share a word or two that came up for them?
I think Vidya wanted to say something.
Yeah, I saw Vidya nodding.
I'm a nodder. I think a lot of what I bring to the workplace and my home environment is enthusiasm. And a word that came up for me over and over again was passionate. But passionate makes me really tired. Like being passionate makes me really tired. And I don't know if I want to use passionate anymore, but I will say that I bring a level of enthusiasm for the work. And in terms of like the ways that I would like to be, is I would like to be a little bit more process oriented. I find that my process and other people's processes are completely different. So I just want to be open to other people's processes. So I guess enthusiastic, open, and the last word that came out was wise. And I don't know if it's wise in interactions or wise in knowledge, but wise enough to know how I'm supposed to be in a certain situation while also making sure I'm true to myself.
I love that. I love how you thought of one and you're like, maybe that's an important word to me, but is that my intention for now? Because I love that was so insightful. Like it makes you tired. And so I think of the three-legged stool analogy a lot. Like they have to work together to balance you. And one may be bringing way too much energy that kind of makes the stool off balance. So I think noticing how they play with each other together is really important. And to get that kind of balance in a way that they can be powerful. Thank you, Vidya.
You're welcome.
Does anybody we have time for one more comment. We'd love to hear from another person.
I'll go, Marion. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Amy, hi, yes, I can, yes. Thanks, yeah. Amy.
The words that came clear for me, several, but the three that really stood out were ease, grace, and affluence. And I don't mean them always to mean what you might think they mean. I mean, ease is something that just goes against what the last year for me has been about, which is working way too hard and trying to, meet the needs of what's been happening with COVID and the stress that people are under. So reminding myself that even if that's going on, that, imparting myself to handle my life with ease is going to have a ripple effect, even with the people that I serve. And grace is more about grace with self and grace with others, because in this time when we've all been locked down, and I have 2 teenagers and it's been great, we're all, good family, but at the same time, I think my patience, sometimes I'm not handling others with as much grace or myself. So that's what I meant by that. And then affluence isn't really about monetary affluence. It's more about time affluence, and trying to really, you know, have that be something that I feel like I create more space for myself and more time. So.
Thank you, Amy. I love how you all and Vidya shared this too, like naming things that you want to bring into your life, and you want to make sure, and that's why this is part of intentions. That's why this is a shorthand for your intentions. And remember, like when we are bringing these into our life and naming them and giving them space in our lives, like then the thing that we didn't want, there's not room for that. So it's really powerful. So thank you all for sharing. I wish I could hear from each of you. But we have another part of our agenda, so I'm going to turn it over to Katie in just a second. And I just invite you to practice and try it out, as mentioned. And I saw Natalie wrote in the chat, like, I think I'll have mine by the end of the week. That's great. No pressure. Just play with it, see what comes up, and see what sticks for you, and see how it might be useful to you. And just, I would really invite you, when you are feeling anxious or you know, stressed, or there's a lot going on, that's a really great time to practice. And you will feel the energy of the word that, if there is a word that like really kind of calms you or centers you, that may be a clue that it's a really helpful word for you. So have fun playing with your words, and I'm going to turn it over to Katie. This is a taste of the kinds of things that we do in our Tide Risers community, if you're not already a part of it. So Katie's going to tell us a little bit more about what that looks like. So thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marion. I absolutely love that session, and I want to spend some more time thinking about those reflection questions. So welcome, everyone. I know we have a lot of members and coaches on, but I know we have a lot of folks on today who are interested in Tide Risers. So I want to take a couple minutes just to introduce myself and the Tide Risers program and the spring 2021 cohort, which we're recruiting for right now and we're really excited about. So I'm Katie Singh, and I'm working with Lara and the rest of the Tide Risers team to really expand our program this year to a global program that we're excited we can reach more women. And so we're really feeling optimistic about where we're headed in 2021. So I just wanted to share a little bit. I feel like you got a great taste for the content and the community today. And if you joined Lara's session a couple of weeks ago, that was also a great opportunity to get to know us a little bit better. But for those of you who are new, you know, Tide Risers, we are a women's focused group. And I think one of the things that makes us unique is that we are not an industry specific group. So we're not a group of lawyers or doctors or entrepreneurs. One of the things that we love is that we pull women from all different sectors and industries and all different life stages. So some of our Tide Risers members come to us at a time of transition. They're looking to get back into the workforce. They're thinking about sort of the end of their careers, or they're early in their careers. And we think the diversity of both industry, life stages, obviously racial and ethnic diversity is really important to us too. And now through this virtual program in 2021, we really have a chance to lean into geographic diversity as well, and be recruiting and attracting women to our program from across the world. So we're going global in 20 and 21, and we're really excited about it. So I want to share just a couple nuts and bolts on the program with you, but I thought, you know, it'd probably be most meaningful to hear from somebody who has gone through the Tide Risers experience and program. So I want to just invite Jacqueline Vargas, if you could just share with us, I think I see you on there, Jacqueline. I asked Jacqueline to just share with you all a transformation she had in going through the Tide Risers program in 2020. So Jacqueline, would you just briefly share with us something that you took away, or a transformation you had from your experience with Tide Risers?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Katie. So my name is Jacqueline. Jackie's fine, or Jayonce, whichever. Have a lot of names. I was in the 2020 cohort in Fairfield, Connecticut, and I literally applied for this program 3 hours before the application was supposed to be submitted. It was information forwarded by a friend. She was like, I think this program will be great for you. You need to go out there and meet different people. And I'm like, hey, let's just do it. I never went to a session. I never did any of these things. And I'm just like, you know what? 2020 for me was the year to like get outside of my comfort levels. I did it. I participated my first session. is where I met Jamie, who was our leader there, and Mel, and they were just amazing. And I think having them really setting the intentions in that room and just allowing us to be comfortable and getting to know each other really meant a lot to me, which made it feel easy for me to be open and be vulnerable with all the women in my group. I went into Tide Risers expecting to come out thinking, I'm gonna learn some business skills, I'm gonna learn how to talk and public speak. And honestly, I will tell you completely honestly that the Tide Risers experience looks different for everyone. Everyone comes in with an expectation, but you leave doing something totally different. So I went in with the expectation of learning how to network, learn how to build a business, and work with like-minded women. And that turned into a lot of self-development and really looking into myself and figuring out, where am I going? You know, like I'm 32 years old and I'm just like, you have all these credentials and you have all these degrees, but yet I feel so stuck. You know, I don't feel great in what I'm doing. I don't want to move forward with what I'm doing. So where do I go from here, you know? So, you know, the inner critic session, I think that was the curriculum for me that really, really set that foundation of like really looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself that things needs to change. And things did change. I ended up, you know, finishing and, you know, putting all my energy into Tide Risers. And then I packed my things up with the support of all the women in my group and I moved to Texas. So this is where I am now. And it really took that session, that inner critic, to really tell me how unhappy I was and to really look at myself in the mirror and say, girl, you got two options. You can stay and suffocate or you can leave and move mountains. And if there's anything that I learned from Tide Risers is the amount of women that you meet that support you throughout the entire journey. And tonight we have a group with the same women that I was in my cohort last year. And it's just amazing the relationships that you build from there. So that is my experience with Tide Risers. I will promote everything. I think you should do it if you're considering it, because honestly, like you're gonna come out of there feeling so much better about yourself. And that's what this program is about. You come in thinking, oh, I'm gonna network, but you're really coming out of there learning so much about yourself. So I hope to see you guys for next year.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Yeah, that was like a perfect tee up because Marion is our facilitator for the inner critic session for the spring 2021 cohort. So it is a transformational topic. I absolutely agree. And I can share more about that in a minute. Great. So I want to just give you all a little bit of the nuts and bolts. Jacqueline shared her transformation and her experience. So thank you so much for that. But I wanted to share just a little bit about the program, because I know for those of you who are interested in joining, it's like, you want to know like, what is this, right? Like you heard about Jacqueline's experience, but like, what is the spring 2021 program? So essentially what it includes, the program is going to run from March to June, and it includes what we call these 6 live core curriculum sessions. And I'll say a little bit more about each of those in a minute. And each of those core curriculum sessions is about 2 hours and will be led by a Tide Risers coach like Marion and like some of the other coaches who are joining us on this call today. In addition to those 6 sessions, you'll also be paired with a smaller group of women in the cohort, and that's what we call your bespoke group. And your group will also be paired with a Tide Risers coach who will help kick off your group and just make sure that you're getting the most out of the experience. The third, and probably maybe the most important, is once you join the spring 2021 cohort, you become a member of Tide Risers. So you are forever a part of the Tide Risers community, and you get access to member events like this one and others. And what that looks like specifically in 2021 is you'll get 3 networking sessions, again, with women from across the network. You're going to get 4 Up-Level Her, which we call our skill building sessions. And you'll also have access to our private online platform to communicate with the women across the network. So it's a lot of stuff for 2021, but we're really excited again about what we think sort of rounds out the full package. You know, I think a lot of this got modeled here today, so I won't add too much, but I think, you know, this is how we do our work as a community. So it's how we show up for any sessions that we have when we're in our small groups, our larger groups. And I think the one If you filled out the application, and I know we have some folks who have already applied to the spring 2021 cohort and have been accepted, woohoo, on this call today. So you were asked to speak to one of these in your application. But I feel like, you know, each of these just shows up in different ways. And I think for me, this authenticity, this sort of feeling that like, this isn't a place where you need to be on, is a really important one right now as well. So, you know, these are the actual session dates. This is all on our website. So this is just sort of a refresh of each of the topics. I will just say that we're really excited that for us, all of those 6 core curriculum sessions are really all framed around the concept of emprise. And so for Tide Risers, what the concept of emprise looks like is it sort of pieces together what we've been talking about both in this session today and Laura's session 2 weeks ago, right? It's not just about what you do in your life. It's not just about, you know, what you do personally or professionally or in your civic engagements. It's how you do it, right? So in the Tide Risers curriculum, we kind of take a look at both those things, like what you're doing in your life and not just professionally, but personally in sort of your other endeavors, but how you're doing those things. And so that I would say is sort of what guides the curriculum and these 6 sessions. Laura, would you add anything about emprise or just how it shapes the curriculum?
You know, it's a framework that I've been working with for some time now, and I find it to be sort of like a really much more kind of holistic way to look at your life, where you're going, and how you want your experience to be, how you want to show up, and who you want to be in the world. So it's really, you know, based on the 4 leadership principles of Tide Risers that were in the previous screen. And we really use those as a lens for decision making about the path ahead of us. So I'm really excited. We've sort of, you know, really taken some of the most powerful workshops and sessions from our experience doing Tide Risers and put them within this framework of the emprise. And I think it's going to be a really interesting journey for us to all take together.
Thank you. Just one note on this. So all the sessions will be recorded. So if you can't join one of these, I would say don't worry about that too much. We'll make sure that the recordings get to all of our participants. So that's going to be an important piece for this as well. So what does it cost and what do you get? So the cost of membership is $1,600. That's a one-time fee. And with that, you get all of the spring 2021 cohort experience, which I talked about before. Those are the 6 2-hour facilitated sessions with a Tide Risers coach alongside Lara. It's the bespoke accountability group, 2 of those facilitated by a Tide Risers coach. We also have workbooks and independent assignments that'll come alongside those 6 sessions. And then, as I mentioned, you get sort of access to the broader Tide Risers community. We do have discounted memberships available. We don't want cost to be a barrier. So please feel free to reach out to me and I'll send some information and a follow-up if you would like to request a discounted membership. Before I sort of close, I know we have one other Tide Risers member who wanted to share a little bit more about her experience. So Adele, I'm going to just stop sharing for 1 second so we can all get the gallery view and invite you to share a little bit more about your experience with the Tide Risers program and any just transformations that you had personally.
Sure. Thank you, Katie. Love that I'm in full view now. That's awesome. You know, it's so funny that it's a 3-word mantra, because I was trying to think when Marion asked me to kind of share today, I was like, what are the 3 things that I got out of Tide Risers? So it's like a day of 3s. And when I kind of force myself to like think, because I'm Irish and we're storytellers and we don't know how to manage our time and we could go on for a long time. So I was forcing myself to like hone in on like what it was that I really got out of Tide Risers. And I'd say, like Jackie as well, like you don't know what you're going to get like until you come out the other side and you're like, oh my God, like I have been changed by this experience. You think you know what it is, and it's eye-opening. So I think the first thing I got was that by investing in myself, I got this language and time and space to understand myself so much better and my motivations. And that language in particular, we talk about abundance, we talk about authenticity. It really helps you understand why you do what you do when you have challenging situations. And just that in and of itself is an incredible foundation to start with. The second thing I got was I was given access to this incredible supportive community of women that, even though like I may have not met any of you before, I know that we could be put in a session together. There wouldn't be any preamble. It's an instant like-minded connection. And you don't get that everywhere in life. And you know that, right? Like, you know that you can be on calls and it's like you're passing ships. And here, there's always this strong bond and connection, which is so powerful. And the third thing that Tide Risers has done is it opened up my eyes to this idea that there is a larger supportive female community out there for me and for others who think like me and who want to change things like me, whether it be yourself or your community. And there's also this idea that like you don't have to do it alone, and that more importantly, why would you do it alone when you can be there and you can have the support of your Tide Risers community that's literally cheering you every step along the way. I was in the 2019 cohort, which is the very first cohort in Philly, with Marion leading it. She was incredible, as she was today. And I haven't left the Tide Risers community since. And I could never predict like how I was going to be part of the Tide Risers community or how it was going to be part of my life from when I said yes to Marion in those like initial stages to now. And it's gotten me through so much. It's been so incredible. And honestly, it is like the best gift I have ever given myself. And I'm not saying that I'm not prone to hyperbole. I promise you, it really is just, it was such an important and special gift that I gave myself. And I think as all of us have been through such a tough time over the last year, that if you give yourself anything, that you give yourself the gift of this time and space and development just for you, because we all need something that's just for us. And forget about everyone else in your family. If you don't take care of you, then you can't take care of anyone else. And so
Thank you, Adele. Thank you so much. Gosh, so inspiring. Awesome. Well, I wanted to just kind of be cognizant of time, and I know I don't want to keep anyone longer than we said we would, but just kind of building off Adele, I want to say, you know, we would love for you all to consider joining the Tide Risers community. Apply. We are running a promotion right now. If you apply by Friday, this Friday, you get a free ticket to our October 2021 summit, which I believe is the 15th and 16th of October, a virtual summit, of course. There's more details on that on our website, but apply and you'll get a free summit ticket. So it's a great promotion we're running this week. If you want to check out more Tide Risers events, if you feel like, you know, you just want to get a better taste of the community, we're really excited. Next week, we actually have a spring 2021 cohort member, Melva LaJoy, who's going to be doing a session on lessons she would tell her younger self, which we're really excited about. And then we have a couple upcoming sessions in February as well with another Tide Risers coach, Jamie, who's here, and Laura, who are just going to be kind of answering more of the nuts and bolts questions. You can also reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll follow up with you. And I'm also happy to stay on for a couple extra minutes for those of you who didn't get a chance to ask questions. And so thank you so much for joining us today. I'll send out a follow-up email with some of this information as well as the PowerPoint. But just a big thank you for you all to make time today. And a huge thank you to Marion for sharing her gifts and talents in this session with us. I think it's really powerful in how we think about moving forward positively this year. So thank you all for being here. And I'll hang out for a couple extra minutes if anybody has any questions. I'll stop the share so we can all do a collective wave. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thanks,
I'll stay on.
everybody.
If you have
Thank you,
questions,
Katie.
I'm
I'll
happy to
stay
stay
on
on for a little while and answer any questions you have about the program.
Thanks, Marion. That was great. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks,
So glad.
Marion.
Thank you so much, Marion. That was fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone on who has any questions for me about the program? Yes, Heather.
Sorry, I have a quick question. I'm just curious how the geographic pieces work.
Good question. So that was interesting for us. I think one of the things when we had to set the times for the sessions, we had to think about, okay, what time is it going to be on the West Coast? So we have picked a time that is, you know, in the middle of the day for Pacific time. But as we think about the smaller groups, geography might be something that we consider, right? Where are you based? Or
Well, I'm in Philadelphia, but actually my question is more about like, so I know that there are coaches that are like Marion, right? You're geographically a Philadelphia coach. I just wondered if is there experiences that are geographically based? Because I imagine before we went all virtual, the things were different probably, right?
Yeah, so we were actually sort of geographically centered before last year. Well, last year we were as well. And what we've done is moved to this sort of centralized virtual platform now. And our intention is, once it is safe and possible to do so, to be able to start opening up some location-specific in-person events that will not be like the core curriculum. That will all still be online, led by me and another coach. But we will, as we can, start to have Tide Risers salons in specific locations. So I do hope that at some point, you know, you can do one in Philly. We also are going to have the opportunity for small group coaching with our Tide Risers coaches. And that's another opportunity to think about sort of like potentially collecting geographically with a coach at some point. So I think we're going to be evaluating those things as things change in different locations and try to figure it out. Because I do personally, I miss in-person events so much. So we'll definitely try to bring that back when we can.
Thanks, Jennifer. And Heather, I would just say we already have a couple spring 2021 cohort members who are Philadelphia based. Yeah. So that's not to, you know, if you want to connect with cohort members who are more local to you, like if you all feel comfortable and safe doing so, meeting up for socially distanced coffee or, you know, whatever is allowed in your geographic region, I think we're going to try to encourage those connections to happen where they can locally, in whatever ways feel safe and supportive for people.
Yeah, great. I love the blend because I think it's great to be connected with people all over the world and also have people locally. So I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like in the future, it'll continue to be both.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks, Heather. Really appreciate it. Feel free to reach out with any follow-up questions.
Will do. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions we can help answer?
All right, I'm going to stop recording.